Today is Friday. We are nearly 24 hours away from kickoff against number 10 Notre Dame. On this Friday episode, we'll be breaking down Kenton's keys to victory, some fan comments from over the week, and our final thoughts before Notre Dame.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to another episode of Locked On Wolfpack, free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's Friday episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. As always, I'm Grayson Boone. Joining me is Kenton Gibbs. We have yet another Friday episode, a good Friday episode for y'all. We'll be starting with Kenton's keys here in just a second. We'll be breaking down some of our top YouTube comments of the week, and then we'll be rounding this thing out, getting you to kick off with some final expectations for the Notre Dame game. So without further ado, Kenton, we're going to get into Kenton's keys. We're going to start on the offensive side of the ball.
So first thing first, I don't want to slander Grayson at all because he's my guy. But we do have a graphic for Kenton's keys if you do want it. It's from Locked On, or it's from Sports Illustrated All Wolfpack, but that's the font.
Oh, I didn't know you had it like that.
We got the graphic. We got the graphic, brother. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But seriously, I think the first one is to give Brennan time. We saw last week that everybody talked about, oh yeah, Brennan Armstrong was doing a great job of scrambling and all that. I referred to him as the Jeff Hardy of college football the other day. But listen, we don't need that. We don't need that. That's not what we need out of Brennan. We need the gunslinger. We need the guy that's going to take his time, go through his reads, and hit the open man, who can make every throw and all that, and can use his legs when needed. It's a threat when it's absolutely necessary, but it shouldn't be absolutely necessary 10 plus times. And the other part of this deal is, I think that that Notre Dame is well coached enough to where if we are scrambling and searching and don't know what's going on and all that good stuff offensively, they're going to complete those sacks. Brennan's not going to bounce off those defenders the same way he did at UConn. So less than 3 sacks is the goal here. Brennan needs time. Give him time to, kind of figure things out and hit those receivers deep downfield, which we'll get to a little later here. Key number 2, get Michael Allen the rock. And I say that because last week he was wildly effective with the few touches that he did have. That last week he had 7 touches and was one of our leaders in yards from scrimmage. I believe he led all the players in yards from scrimmage, not named Brennan Armstrong, in this game with 7 touches. That flatly cannot happen again. We cannot see that again. He needs to get the ball in his hands more because he's a playmaker. It's a visible difference when he's on the field as opposed to our other backs in the passing game and the running game. He needs to be out there more. Be explosive, I'm going to do my best Robert and I impression here, but the goal is to be explosive. How do they get explosive? Execute. That's it. Execute on these explosive plays. We need 4 passing plays, big chunk plays, 20 yards plus. Last week, we didn't have 1. Not a single one. And so some people would tell me, Ken, 4 is such a high, lofty goal. Why would you say that, especially with the Notre Dame team where their strength is the corners? I don't care about none of that. The reality is very simple. We are not going to win this game by nickel and diming Notre Dame down the field. If we make this, I talked about this and I'm if you're watching this, congratulations. You've seen this before Locked On College Football Live, you see this. If NC State has a chance of winning this game, it has to be exciting. If this is a boring 3 yards in a cloud of dust, hey, we're going to hit a bunch of quick outs and hope that works out for us, okay, try it if you want to. It ain't going to go well. This team has to be better in terms of getting explosive plays. And I think 4 is the magic number where you're looking at the defense having to play off a little bit, which then opens up lanes for your running game.
Yeah, so touching on the offense, hit the nail on the head here. The only thing I'd add in here with, I guess, point number one, in addition to giving Brennan time to throw with the O-line, wide receivers need to get open. And we saw them do a pretty decent job of this at UConn. But again, Notre Dame secondary is going to be a much taller task. So the wide receivers need to be getting open down the field so Brennan is able to find them. And that in fact, will lead to these explosive plays that we're looking for. Now getting in here to the defensive and special teams, Kenton, what do you have for us?
Alrighty, so defense and special teams, bend but don't break. We saw last week that the defense broke at a few points, and that just cannot happen. Right when we think, all right, we've now taken the lead, we're going to put this game away. Boom, 75-yard run, pack of the medley's going by Rosa. Literally the first play on the next drive after we finally get a double-digit lead. That running game, to me, that Notre Dame has is prolific. It's good. They got a stable of backs. They got a great offensive line and all the good stuff. You cannot allow a running game to demoralize you in that way. That is the type of stuff that makes guys, what are we doing here? I'm not sure we want to be here. Bend but don't break. If they get a 5-yarder here, they get a 10-yarder there, they get a 15-yard. Sure. Line back up. Do it again. Number two. Speaking of the average, number one, the kind of feeds into number two because huge runs distort the average. But even if we're not talking about huge runs, they need to be averaging less than 4.5 yards a carry. The reality is if they're averaging a first down every 2 carries, that does not bode well for the Pack. That is just a problem. That's a serious problem. And the reason that I didn't go under 4 yards per carry is because you can see some wonky things sometimes to where you can win a game giving up 4.5 per carry if you are putting them in a position to where like they're getting those cheap yards per se. Like they run a draw or something before halftime and it busts for 25 yards, but it's like, oh, well, it was the last play of the half. So like who cares really? You know what I mean? Like that type of deal. But if we're holding them under 4.5 per carry, I think that this is Wolfpack win easily here. And last but not least, create 2 or more turnovers. We have already seen, as big as Estime is, as strong as he is, sometimes he's too strong for his own good. That ball just pops right on out from against that massive bicep of his. We need to be opportunistic in getting that ball out because, again, I'm saying this and I'm sticking to this. If this game is exciting, if this game is dependent on who has the better passing game, I feel comfortable with NC State in this. I feel very comfortable with that. With that being said, we can't do that if we're not forcing turnovers. If we're not forcing turnovers, if we're not making it so that, hey, every time Hartman thinks about putting that ball in there, he gets a little jittery. He gets a little, I'm not sure. We got to hesitate, got to think about it. We're going to run into some problems. Create 2 turnovers. Turnovers put you in plus territory generally. Plus territory puts you in position to score. Scoring puts that crowd in a position to where we know Carter Finley's going to be rocking either way. But give him a reason to be loud and rocking is the charge of this team, especially his defense, create 2 turnovers.
Yeah, and I think if I had to add in maybe a 4th point here, it'd be don't let Sam Hartman beat you. We talked about this yesterday with Tyler Wojak of Locked On Irish. We are not afraid of Sam Hartman. We know what Sam Hartman is. We've had a front row seat to Sam Hartman 3 times. You cannot afford to let Sam beat you. Of course, he is in a different situation. He is playing for a different team. The pass protection is different. The running back situation is different. The coaching is different. That's all fine and dandy. But I'd have a very hard time believing that Tony Gibson is going to allow Sam Hartman to cook on Saturday. If Estime ends up being the deciding factor, if the offensive line ends up being the deciding factor and Notre Dame bludgeons us to death, I think that's something we're just going to have to live with. If Notre Dame comes out and they're just overly physical and we cannot match up with that, I think that's the ball game. But you cannot allow Sam Hartman to beat you when I believe that our secondary can handle him. First ad for today is Nutrafol. You don't have to choose between better hair growth and your health. Nutrafol provides a whole body health approach for men that promotes healthier hair using no drugs, no compromises, just better hair. Men think losing hair is inevitable, so you can take control of your hair's future with Nutrafol's science-backed hair growth supplement for men. Question for y'all. Did you know that 80% of men will experience hair thinning in their lifetime? Okay? It's normal, but it doesn't have to be your fate. You can get ahead of thinning with Nutrafol. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements use physician-formulated natural science-backed ingredients. Their drug-free, patented technology provides consistent, reliable results without compromising your health. So, go to Nutrafol.com/men to take their hair health wellness quiz. Take this first step for visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men and enter the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com/men. This is spelled Nutrafol.com/men and enter promo code LOCKEDONCollege. College football season is here, and this season, Locked On is kicking up our coverage with Locked On College Football Kickoff live each Friday. Locked On will go live from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on every Locked On College YouTube channel. Locked On College Football Kickoff Live will cover playoff implications, the conference rivalry games, and go in-depth like only Locked On can. Also, you can catch our very own Kenton Gibbs as a part of the panel on there, so be sure to Kenton on there as well. Find Locked On College Football Kickoff Live every Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on any Locked On College YouTube channel. You won't want to miss it. Now, let's get into Fan Friday, Kenton. We've had a ton of comments this week, a lot of which coming from Notre Dame fans. So if you are a Notre Dame fan listening to our Friday episode, we greatly appreciate all the contributions from you all over the course of the week. So some of you may find yourselves select. We're going to start here with Tom.6265. He says, you guys realize whoever is playing over Joe Alt is basically eliminated from your defense. No one ever beats this guy. I think he is almost at 1,000 snaps without allowing a sack, and it's not much different with Fisher at right tackle. These two are beasts. Now listen, I believe exactly what I responded with. Joe Alt is really, really, really good, but he's not a superhero. He's not superhuman. You can't say that no one is capable of beating him. If anyone is capable of beating him, I have a lot of faith in guys like Davin Vann, CJ Clark, and maybe a healthy Savion Jackson back in the fray here.
Yeah, I mean, I like cool, good for Joe Alt, but I look back and I remember a tackle by the name of Joe Thomas. He never got beat. And did his team win anything?
Sure did.
The Browns actually, I believe they went winless or very close to it with him having one of the highest, being one of the highest graded tackles in the NFL. He's a Pro Football Hall of Famer, for Christ's sake. So I agree. Joe Alt is a tough out. I'm not going to lie to anybody and say, hey, beating Joe Alt is easy. As a matter of fact, during this week, I pointed out it's not the passing game in beating him where it's going to be, where I feel like that's going to be where NC State can get the edge and that's pliable. Because, again, I'm a little bit of a knower of ball. I've watched the film on this guy. The passing game, I'm not going to say, oh, yeah, I'm expecting Savion Jackson to get 2 sacks about the guy. I'm not expecting that. That would be a surprise for me. But with that being said, it's about in the running game. In the running game, can NC State make it so that they're in bad situations? Because, yes, Alt may be undefeated in one-on-ones, in passing situations and all that, and there may be a similar thing going on with Fisher. You know what's really hard to beat? A blitz that out-schemes you. That's extremely hard to beat. You know who's never lost a battle to a player? A free blitzer. Now, granted, that free blitzer may miss the quarterback, but he's never lost to an offensive lineman. Now, has he? No, because he's a free blitzer. So, at the end of the day, I don't think that this is a game of one-on-one matchup with Joe Alt in the passing game that's going to decide it. If that was the case, we can go ahead and pack it in now because, again, Joe Alt is one hell of a tackle.
Our next comment here is from Ross Reyes. He says, if both teams play well, Notre Dame wins. For NC State to win, Notre Dame needs to help by making mistakes. And yeah, I agree with this. I think we highlighted this both in yesterday's episode and today's in Kenton's Keys here. Notre Dame is a very fundamentally sound team. They don't often beat themselves. Mm-hmm. And so in saying that, NC State will have to cause disruption. We will have to create 2+ turnovers. We will have to get pressure on Sam Hartman throughout the game if we want to have a pretty good shot at this.
Where's my guy Funk at? We need Funk in here because he always comes with the insight that's hard hitting. But that's neither here nor there. The reality of Funk, if you're watching this, you know you my guy. You know I love talking ball with you through these comments. Love it. But anyway, I'd agree. I literally said multiple times, if this game is boring, Notre Dame wins it. We have to make this exciting. We have to make it so that there are some plays there that go kind of off script. We have to win in that regard. I mean, the reality is, again, Notre Dame's running game looks phenomenal. Notre Dame's defense has looked phenomenal. But the fact of the matter is, this is not a game that is already determined. If both teams are playing well, saying that Notre Dame is guaranteed to win it, not so sure about that, my friend. Not so sure about that. But what I will say is this. If NC State can force Notre Dame into some mistakes, then I mean some big ones, NC State will be just fine, and the fans will be rushing the field. And as one NBA young boy once said, it'll be a parade inside my city. Yeah.
I mean, you think about it this way. If we played every game on just paper, there would never be a single upset in any sport ever. Yeah. That's why they play these games between the lines. So sure, Notre Dame might look better. They might look more physical on paper. They don't play the game on paper. NC State's going to have their shot to win this game. This Absolutely. Next comment is a bit of a hot take, to say at the very least. This comes from Fred Stewart, 54. He says, the Irish will win this game because State can't throw the football due to bad O-line and QB play, forcing State to make a change at quarterback late in the game because it is out of hand and MJ gets State's first touchdown of the game. A lot to unpack here. Well, there is certainly some concerns with the O-line, as we've highlighted probably more than enough here throughout the week after our first game at UConn. O-line play is probably the most important thing that needs to be fixed from week 1 to week 2. But if you're able to provide some sort of relief there, you give Brennan more time in the pocket. More time in the pocket means more time for receivers to get open, more time to attack down the field. And that is what they've been working on during this week. I think things would have to go catastrophically bad for us to see MJ Morris in this game. And by catastrophic, I mean probably Brennan gets injured. And we certainly do not want to be seeing that at any point in the year, let alone game 2.
MJ Morris gets the first touchdown because it's out of hand is, woo, what a sentence. What a sentence there. There's a world where Fred Stewart is absolutely right. There's a world where that happens. There's also a world where Fred is very wrong. We're looking at a Notre Dame defense that, yes, senior laden, yes, experienced, talented, all those things. The toughest test they've had this year is who? The mighty Tennessee State Tigers. The Navy midshipmen who got whooped on so bad. Again, I was asking, bring in the Army, bring in the Air Force, bring in the National Guard, help these boys. They need something over there, And so we've seen 1 week of football out of NC State. And we've already written off the offensive line as, they're so terrible. But certain folks have already written this offensive line off as, they're so terrible. They'll never be able to protect. Brennan's so bad. He doesn't know how to make a read. Okay. Long story short, what I'm trying to tell you, Mr. Stewart, and people like him who feel like, I've got this thing mapped out and written out, and I know how it's going to go already because of 3 total games between these 2 teams. Pump your brakes. Pump your brakes. Pump your brakes. And if we're wrong, I'm a big enough man to come back on this show and eat my crow. I'm a big enough man to say, hey, Fred called it on the number. As a matter of fact, let's pin this down. And if Fred is right and things turn out how it turns out, hey, let's give Fred his credit next Friday. Say, hey, Fred, give us the winning lottery numbers as well because you called it exactly as it went. And that Powerball will do me some justice, brother. So with that being said, again, that's a possibility. I don't see it playing out that way, but more power to you.
Our next comment here comes from Barry62. They say, reality confronts us is understood, yet I'm fool enough to believe we win. I think NC State wants to redeem the Boston College loss and expect to see our guys surprise in the trenches. Well, the Boston College loss was our last home game dating back to last year. I can't believe we're still talking about this loss because it was that painful, but Yeah, I would like to see us surprise some people in the trenches. I would like to see the O-line take a massive step forward. I'd like to see the D-line take a massive step forward this week. Notre Dame is a formidable opponent in the trenches. And, like we mentioned yesterday, this game will be won or lost in the trenches.
I'll tell you this, just like Fred, there was a world where Fred is right. There's also a world where Barry's right. There's also a world where we play that type of game in the trenches where, again, I'm not worried about Notre Dame pass blocking because I don't care how long you hold up. Those wide receivers got to get open eventually. And with all due respect, I don't think they have a single guy that him up against Aiden White. I'm like, oh, God, can we send the safety over there? Please. And I don't think that Notre Dame has that guy on the perimeter. So this is going to come down to can we stop the run? Can we put them in uncomfortable positions? Because at that point, I feel good about this.
And then last fan comment on this Friday coming from a Notre Dame fan. They say, I think it will be a competitive game. Having said that, I think NC State gets worn down late in the trenches and Notre Dame pulls away. I'll say 35-24 Notre Dame. Respect to the Wolfpack. Go Irish. Well, I think Devil Doc is probably hitting it on the head here by saying NC State may get worn down in the trenches. Again, it's kind of the same storylines and different phrasing here through this Fan Friday, but a lot of folks are concerned about the physicality. That's something we've outlined throughout the week as well. I think that this is probably the most likely scenario, as painful as that is to admit. I just think Notre Dame is super, super physical. I think, some of the points we struggled last week, if they do reappear, then yeah, this is probably how this game is going to play out.
Can you take that off the screen for me real quick? Because I need our faces big for this moment. NC State offensive line. Big Belton, Lyndon Cooper, McMahon, Eason, McKay. Y'all have heard this all week. Y'all have heard that you're the Achilles heel. You're what's going to hold this team back. You'll be the reason for losing. That's what you've heard all week. That's probably what you've seen ever since the plane touched back down in Raleigh when you left Hartford. What are you going to do about it? Who are you going to decide to be? Because at this point, like Grayson said, everybody's saying the same thing about you. Everybody. I ain't seen nobody yet say, hey, there's a chance that NC State, that was just one bad week. There's a chance that this line comes out and absolutely bullies, absolutely muscles, absolutely makes it hard. Defensive linemen and those 5-year linebackers laps. Brennan Armstrong going to have a pocket so clean he can make a sandwich back there and still do something with the ball after. I ain't heard nobody say y'all have an opportunity to be there. All week, you've heard our fans, Notre Dame fans, the analysts, everybody say that there's no chance for you. If that doesn't light a fire in your gut, if the opportunity to beat the number 10 team in the nation doesn't put something in your belly, doesn't get you geeked up, if you need to be pumped or primed to go put on a magnificent performance in this game, brother, I'm sorry to tell you, this ain't the sport for you. Go take the shoulder pads off. Let the backup play. Go play badminton. Go do racquetball or I heard the pickleball is the fastest growing sport in America. They got plenty of things for you, brother. But this here ain't it. Offensive line. I don't know how many of y'all watch this. I've seen a couple of coaches put this up. Coach Tuesday, I'm talking to you too, brother. What are y'all gonna do about it? Nobody believes in you. Nobody believes it. Backs against the wall. Backs against the wall. I said this before, and I'll say it again. The more I watch Notre Dame, the more I think we can beat them. We can beat them. But if it is to be, it is up to me, needs to be the mentality of each and every one of y'all if we're going to get this thing done. And that's all I got to say on it. That's all I got to say on it.
I think, if I didn't know any better and I closed my eyes there, I might have thought I was sitting in the locker room with a pregame speech such as that one. Like we mentioned, that's going to be the ball game, whether you like it or not. The trench war and mainly our offensive line and our capabilities of looking downfield for this game, that's probably going to be the deciding factor. So what do y'all got for us? Are we going to show up? or are we going to shut down?
People talk about bulletin board material. It may not even be Notre Dame players to say it, but the way that the media is treating y'all, the way that these fans are treating you, that bulletin board needs to be full, filled, packed, loaded, overloaded, jammed to the gills, wall to wall, from the window to the wall, like Lil Jon said, everywhere should be filled with offensive line, not physical. Brennan will be scrambling. Notre Dame will be all over him like flies to honey. It needs to be filled and etched in your heads.
We're going to land this thing in just 1 second after a quick word from our sponsors. Our second sponsor for today is Gametime. If you're still looking for tickets for Saturday's game, NC State versus Notre Dame, Gametime is the place. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Gametime is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports you love to attend. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and the best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Forget planning months in advance, especially because you got about 24 hours to get that ticket. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. They use exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, you name it, they got it. You can get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you'll never have to dig through your email. So, download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And again, create an account, use redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Summarizing this week up, our last couple thoughts and predictions for this Notre Dame game. Really expressed most of it on yesterday's crossover with Tyler of Locked On Irish. I'll start here. I'm still going to stick with my current score prediction. I think Notre Dame is essentially just going to try and impose their will on us. I think, unfortunately, they may be successful in doing so. Kenton, I really love what you said earlier today and also yesterday, but the longer we sit here and think about it, the longer we sit here and break down the potential holes in the Notre Dame defense, you start to believe that we can make a difference with the crowd noise, the atmosphere, and we can find a way to win. But I'm still going to stick with my final score of 31-16 Notre Dame.
You know?
Are you going to flip?
All right.
Do it.
It's taking everything in me not to waffle on this thing. It's taking everything in me not to waffle. But I try to be a man of principle. So I will stick with my prediction of 24-21 Notre Dame. However, much like I said about the Duke Clemson game, don't be surprised if folks are storming the field after this. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I'm happy to be wrong in this case. I'm happy.
Oh, yeah.
Happy to be wrong. I think that this game is going to be much closer than everybody believes it'll be. And I think that it's going to come down to some moment of truth moments. It's going to come down to some those little inches of what happens here. And again, had I not already made that 24-21 Notre Dame prediction, I would for sure be going 24-21. With that being said, I'm being a man of principle. I'm going to stick to my 24-21 Notre Dame, but trust and believe. Trust and believe. I don't think that this game is as far as many people say it is. I don't think this turns out to be a double-digit game. This is not betting advice. I'm not telling you what to do with your money. But all I'm saying is I think that a full touchdown is about where this game could be at worst.
Yeah, and listen, I would love to be wrong. I hope I am wrong. I hope I'm so wrong that I'm celebrating in the middle of the 50-yard line after the game. I hope I am that wrong. I'd love to be wrong because that means we'll come out of here with a big fat W on Saturday. But, well, folks, that's going to do it for us here this week. That's going to do it for us here on Friday. If you're headed to the game, make sure to be there early. Parking and, traffic might be a little bit of a bear to get through. So get there early, be loud, be present, just be ready for a dogfight because the NC State football team is going to need each and every one of you. You have to be able to make some sort of difference with the atmosphere because the players and the coaches will feed off of any kind of momentum that they can build that has to be caused right out of the gate. But that'll do it for us here. We'll do some post-game, post-recapping things after the game, so be sure to be on the lookout for that. But until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.